Welcome to the grim, lawless 23rd century, following the fall of U.S. Gov and mass depopulation of major cities at the hands of the multi-trillionaire de Huberton family. Baptized in radioactive hellfire, a rare mutation makes Turbo a fiercely pumped scrapper, haunted by specters from her past, surviving the post-apocalyptic wasteland one deathmatch pit fight at a time. But when she rescues the stunning trophy girl, the unlikely duo are thrust into a harrowing odyssey, evading marauding berserkers at every turn on their way to the ultimate showdown as they uncover the horrific truth behind the fall of humanity.
All right, here we are again. Good morning, Jake.
Good morning, Kurt, and hello to everybody. Welcome to Turbo Pitfighter, the making of. We're spinning a yarn, post-apocalyptic sci-fi comic book and story. Like prose, I don't know, illustrated prose. Yeah, so that's the big news since our Turbo teaser has come out, which is our new what is that? 12 pages of story, couple of pages of back matter, and our prequel world is being announced. So this is a sci-fi timeline for readers of words, readers of writing. If you're a reader if you like comics because they have pictures, then you're gonna love the illustrated installments that we're gonna be releasing. And I guess this is good as time as any to start showing Kurt my latest sketches. But and it's great to get Kurt's reaction because when I sit down late at night and I'm like going to sleep, I never know what I'm going to sketch. You know, it's like I'm going over a lot of famous actresses' faces. You know, I was talking about Saoirse Ronan, who had a very interesting, compelling face. But there's a couple of actresses. I'm wondering if you have any suggestions. So, you know, what I want to do is take an actress's face and use that as a template for my super squadron women. Right? I have Elevena here. I have a sketch of Elevena. Well, here. This is when I was trying to sketch this famous actress, Saoirse Ronan, who's Irish.
That's really nice. That's really nice.
She's older now, so her features have like filled out a little, but she's been in movies ever since she was a teen. And I was going to draw Elevena here. This I was thinking could be Polska, and I want to talk about this and the Black Vein because that's an interesting story twist. Here, I started to sketch a strong female because I'm going to be going one by one over the first enhanced humans that Elevena enhances in our sci-fi timeline. And the first one is going to be Charvel, which is here. Check out this sketch. I don't know if you can see the whole thing. Should I try and center it if I can?
Don't move the camera. Just pull the drawing around. Just gotta go backwards.
Right. So it's kind of tilted.
It's all right.
So here's Charvel, and she's on the machine where she's being enhanced. And there's all these like wires hooked up to her. There's an IV in her neck, if you see that.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you're looking very, very closely, but she threw up, and there's like a vomit bucket here.
Okay.
And in the background, you have Elevena enhancing her on all the monitors and the diodes and everything. But Elevena, we got to remember, is only in her mid-teens here. And so these are adult women that she's enhancing to be part of her super squadron team called the Rectifiers. And they're going to go out and do rescue missions. This is just a random big face. This, I'm working on more. So this, I don't know if you can see the whole thing here, but this is Sentient City with the sentient domes. And it's also the prison complex. And I wonder if I was trying to come up with a name for all this. I think they might call it Sent City for short, like Sentient City for short. And it consists of these 5 domes: one, two, three, four, five. And these domes are as big as small, you know, I don't want to say cities, but complexes. Like this right here, if you can see the detail, is going to be the agriculture for the prison. And here's all the solar panels. And then their water just squirts right down. And so they're going to be growing all their own, like potatoes and cabbages and everything to feed the prison. So it's all self sustaining. Um, and then the sentients live here. So these are the equivalent of, let's say, like a big campus, let's say, right? Inside these sentient domes. Back here, there's all kinds of solar fields. You got wind turbines. You got the mountains. There's going to be new ways to create energy between the cold air and the geothermal, they call it. Here's going to be the tidal energy that's created. I don't know if you've seen these new things that just float on the water. They're floats, and they create kinetic energy by collecting pneumatic pressure in tubes. So this is going on today. You can imagine that they have it perfected 200 years from now. And here's the guard tower. There's another small guard tower. And of course, this giant Gundam in the middle is kind of like the Sentinel. So I want to call it Sent City because that kind of has a ring to it, like Sun City or Sin City, maybe. But Sent is short for the sentience, and the Gundam is like a Sentinel. And then I want to call it Sent City and blank prison complex. So what do I want to call the prison complex? And do I want to call it Elevena Prison Complex, named after its most famous prisoner? Or is that too weird? Yeah, that's an open question. If anybody has any suggestions, you're welcome to leave a comment. This is the sketch we showed last week. This is going to be an enhanced super squadron female named Pitch Blend. She's rescuing the daughter of the Hexter, the protagonist in the Company Man saga, which is going to be one of our installments about somebody that works for the De Hubertons and has a moral crisis, a crisis of conscience. So remember last episode where I was getting at AI, the takeover of AI?
Yeah.
Because I was saying, like, I was putting in all of these famous models and actresses' faces. And you're going to laugh, but you know whose face I was copying here? It doesn't look like anything like her. But who do you think this is?
I can't tell you.
Only people our age would know. Okay.
Courtney Cox.
No, older. So this was Cheryl Ladd. I was looking at a picture of Cheryl Ladd when I drew this.
Okay.
So lest anybody think that I'm trying to appropriate any of these model or actresses' likeness, I'm counting on the fact that when I anyway draw one of these women's faces repeatedly, it doesn't come out looking like them. So I do not feel guilty at all because look. So this is what I was looking at, right?
Yeah.
And you remember her? She was like the replacement for Farrah Fawcett on Charlie's
Angels.
So, yeah, and I just couldn't capture it. I couldn't do it. Like maybe it's because I was using
her eyebrows are too high. You have her eyebrows too high.
Right, I know that's a feature with her. She's got pretty low, thin eyebrows.
Yeah.
And then when you're doing, the ink pen, you're either on or off. There's no gradation, right? So that's why I would probably come in later with these gradients. But I messed up the mouth. And anyway, this is my formula, right? I take an actress and I base something on them, and then it ends up being my own, right? Like this was the face that I did for Charvel, who's going to be the first one to be
Right.
genetically enhanced. And this one's going to be Shadow, the second one. Pitch Blend will be like third. This is going to be Polska, um, who is going to be Turbo's girlfriend when Turbo is a teenager, and they're both teenagers. And Turbo might be like 18, 19, and she'll be like 17 or 18 or 19. And they stay together for quite a number of years until Polska meets her tragic end for radioactivity poisoning. This face I drew, I was just trying to draw somebody from recollection. It didn't work, but it's an interesting face. Now, I have the note here on Black Vein. That's the radioactivity poisoning. That kills her. Um, and I kind of mapped out the whole death scene. When we get to this is going to be like issue 4 or 5 when young Turbo is older, and they're hiding out in the woods. They live inside of a hollowed out tree underground. They fight, battles by day, and of course Polska is a specialist in nutrition, and she makes these sausages made out of protein, that basically like worms and bugs and all these like kind of like engineered things in the future, grub worms, and she's also able to make them taste good, and that's how she gets her nickname of Polska. But when she gets sick, she has this dialogue here. Now, Turbo, please, I can't take another day. So what happens is her veins on her face, which everybody has, they start to turn black, and it's called black vein. It's when the radioactivity is taking over your blood and it's poisoning your blood, and it's duplicating itself like a blood cancer. Um, Turbo says, "I can't. Don't make me." She wants Turbo to kill her. I can't do it. And then Polska says, "I can't do it myself. I can't walk. Please, Turbo, if you love me, if you ever dot dot dot." And then Turbo crying, "I love you. I love you. Just don't make this your last words to me." So then she says, come closer." Her eyes turn completely black. So here I want to have a scene, if you can see
Wow.
this, like Aeon Flux, except
Right.
completely black.
Oh wow.
And she can't see anymore.
Wow.
Um, she she says here, she cuts off a piece of her hair and says here, and then she cuts her hand. She slices her hand open. "My DNA for you, always to keep." And they put their DNA together. "We will always to keep. We will be together again. We will always be dot 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 together. My love dot dot dot. Please, please say you love me." And that's when Turbo says, "I love you," and kills her.
That's some
Heavy duty,
dude.
right?
Whoa.
That's going to be a great scene. I don't know how we're going
Yeah.
to do that. And that might be like, I have to be like 3 pages. Just, I don't know. So that's going to come up in the future, but I'm jumping around the timeline. And that's the latest sketching that I wanted to show you.
Nice.
Sure. See if you have any jumping off ideas. So, um, last episode I was talking about the movies that I saw.
Right.
And one other movie I saw this past week was Godzilla -1.
Right.
Um, I don't know where you're at on that, but Godzilla -1 was a reboot going back to um, the wartime, and it was all in Japanese. Um, and it was really interesting. You had all these special effects from the Godzilla monster and everything, and I think they even won like an Academy Award for visual effects. But you had this really, really old-fashioned kind of Japanese story going on with this young soldier and this family that he starts by taking in this orphan and this girl, and the girl wasn't even the mother, and and it just, they go through, all of this like timeline of real. They're really making a story. very well acted. Like it was like a classic Kurosawa movie
Oh.
almost. And then in the middle of it all, you have all of these giant monster scenes, where they take you to the origin, like an origin of Godzilla when he wasn't as big, and he was on this remote island, and it was right during the middle of World War II, and really interesting movie. I would say that if you took Godzilla out, it would have been a good movie, right? But that's how it got me watching it, and there's a lot of great scenes of him destroying Japanese cities like Tokyo and Ginza, and all of these, the usual, stuff that people tune into Godzilla for. So I want to highly recommend Godzilla Minus One. I know there's a lot of Godzilla movies out, and I know there's a new King Kong and Godzilla out, which I haven't seen. Um, I don't know if they're overdoing it, but this wasn't bad. I know this was from a couple years ago. Um, so how do you weigh in on Godzilla? How
Oh,
does our resident curmudgeon?
I, I'm down. I'm down with
You down with
Godzilla.
some Godzilla?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. I
Well,
don't. I don't. I was probably one of the few people that got that had the um, Led Zeppelin, P Diddy sample for the Godzilla. Remember
Oh, really?
that? Was that 2002 or something?
That
Right?
was a long time ago. Yeah,
Yeah, but I was
he
like,
did
I
it in
had
a
the
world.
soundtrack. I had the soundtrack. I think that was the last movie soundtrack I bought. But once again, I classify silly movies as that going in. I have no lens on for judgment other than one thing. If it's made me, jump around, laugh, made me hold my breath, just all the things you want for an hour and a half to 2 hours in a movie theater,
Yeah,
or just watching it for, you know, the blatant stupidity of it, as so many people like, oh, that movie's so stupid. Yes, and it's beautifully made in a stupid way for stupid people like
right,
me. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
not everything has to be um, made as a perfect story, and I think it's also one of the biggest traps we're in right now. It's so formulaic that
Here
our
we go.
storytelling, and I'm talking across the board, not only movies, but comic books too. Everything has to have meaning. Everything is purpose and meaning and everything like that. And for me, that can get so trudgingly boring. It's just boring because there's only about, like, I don't know, 5 different meaningful ways you can tell a story without offending 2/3 of the population, or a third of the population, or 17 people in the population that really matter. But it's
Yeah.
brought up this, Jake. I'm going to send you another link. A YouTuber named Ian has a channel called Right Conscious, WRITE, and he's a huge Cormac McCarthy fan. As a matter of fact, he toes himself as the leading Cormac McCarthy channel that you can learn about Cormac McCarthy.
Cormac McCarthy is the road guy.
Correct. The Road, Blood Meridian, and something else. I can't remember right now. But
Yeah,
anyhow, Ian does these like 20-minute, 15 to 20-minute rants, if you will. David Foster Wallace is another thing there. But I've done entire evenings, 3-hour binges of listening to his videos, because he's speaking to the heart of why somebody initially wants to create something. And to really paraphrase, because I'm just not a very literary kind of guy, I enjoy reading, as difficult it is for me with dyslexia and attention deficit disorder. but
Yeah.
the message he sends is like Blood Meridian is something that I want to read real soon, because there's no rationale to it. It's about a gang of scalpers in the Midwest, the early 1800s era, I think pre-Civil War, um, and it's just about a horrible group of men and how they prey upon each other, and how it's about violence. And actually, Cormac McCarthy has stated that the purpose of the book is to write as well as you can about violence. That's it. There's no judgment of who's right and wrong and bad, and this shouldn't be told and said. It's all stop. Just stop. Let people just write some
So,
things.
so what are his protagonists the bad guys?
There are none. There are none. There's
Right.
no
So, well, is this like
there's no good guy, there's no bad guy, there's no anti-hero, there's nobody. And when you start emotionally attaching yourself to somebody that hopefully will fix everybody, you are
yeah,
left sorely disappointed. I haven't read The Road, I am disappointed in myself because I've said it 100 times before, not on this channel, just over in my head when I hear about, because I've watched the movie a couple of times. Um,
yeah,
because the movie is just of the book, because it's about a true sense of apocalypse, how we will all revert back to being narcissistic animals that only have survival mechanisms. Cannibalism is a huge part of it. um,
yeah, yeah. Plus
the
vegan.
way women are kept for breeding purposes only, so on and so forth. And the ending is just like me right now. I'm holding back my guts because the ending is just that. It's just the way a father is a survival mechanism, takes care of a child all the way to the end. There's
Hopefully,
no
yeah,
good or bad about him. There's no good. It's just what a man should do for his child in the most extreme
yeah.
sense. There's no, you know what I mean. So that's just sorry, rant.
All right. So, we asked our resident curmudgeon Kurt to weigh in on Godzilla movies, and we found out that he doesn't like, traditional kind of like faddish, formulaic, and
I
he
don't
does like
like.
post-apocalyptic, depressing,
Uh,
violent
yes.
books.
Or no. I mean, even the I guess it's the thing that I'm most interested in now is the extreme sense of reality that you can put in a piece of entertainment like a comic book. Does that make sense, Jake?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Well, we have a lot of ways of storytelling in comics, and other ways. I mean, we're doing a lot through our podcast, but comics are it's a medium I love, but what do you really get through to people for deeper meaning stuff, right? I mean,
Well,
movies are better for deeper meaning stuff. Like last night, I got choked up. My daughter was, she has a little projector in her room now, so she was projecting on the wall, and I'm like, "Hey, this is bigger than the widescreen TV. Why don't we do this all the time?"
yeah.
And she was like, "Yeah." So we watched this movie called Unbroken, and Unbroken was a true story about a World War II POW who went through this incredible. He was a bombardier, and goes on these missions, is shot down, like lost at sea for like months or weeks and months, and then finally captured, and then like really mistreated in the enemy camps. Remind you a little bit of Midnight Express. The cruelty and the torture that they do in these camps and stuff. But it was all a true story, and you get really choked up at the end because this guy endured so much. Turns out it was directed by Angelina Jolie. We didn't realize that till the very end. Um, and and then you see the picture of the real guy, and you just can't help it. You get choked up. You saw this whole movie of everything, and he ended up, living his life and having, a family.
I think one of the strategies of getting something made on a high budget right now is the sense of your wherewithalness to persevere through um, things that feel so tragic. Because in our society right now, in July of 2024, it seems like we're facing some stuff that is inevitably going to just crush the human soul. That's just the way it's
Yeah,
packaged and presented to us, right? And the way we all
dark,
kind of
man.
kind of communicate with each other. So the things that are always going to, be funded is great. You want to do a Godzilla movie, but can you give me something that makes people walk away with that feeling of hope, which I'm good with. Look, I love a good tearjerker. I mean, when you were telling the whole death of Polska and ending, I'm serious, man. That starts choking me up. You know what I mean? Because I can imagine,
Yeah.
I can imagine the depth that a human being has to go
Can
through.
you imagine we're like 4 issues in with these characters, and this stuff is so yeah,
But
it's like
you'll see that kind of thing though,
money.
where somebody is suffering, so
Yeah.
much, and they're asking their beloved to do something about it because they can't. And if you want to really define true love in an unromantic way, then you figure out as that other to do it for that person.
Yeah.
That's the question, right? That's what
And
you've
yeah,
got to work out. You've got to figure that shit out, right? And then
she knows
there's
Turbo's
damn the
super chill.
consequences. You know what I mean? Great
Yeah.
shit, man. Great shit. Great shit.
Yeah. And Turbo's gonna carry that, you know, forward. And
Man, I keep thinking
that's
like
but
I keep now thinking, Jake, like if this is somebody's first video and you just heard that little story and us ranting up to this point, and you're like, who the fuck are these two guys? Like, what?
right.
Why? You know what I mean? Well, you now, dear viewer, listener, needs to make a decision or whether you're going to stick around. Will the rewards for you match? Because I'm not here to entertain you. Okay, from my position on this side of the Jake is there to make you
I'm a dancing
entertain.
monkey.
You're the organ grinder, but I ain't no dancing monkey. But
Right.
I approach it as if I can entertain the fuck out of myself, it's gonna come across somebody else and they're gonna go, oh shit, you don't see much of this kind of stuff. That's the layer of my inking being placed on it, and my injection, if you will, to pieces of the story as we move along. But it's just I just I can't. I get
Well,
corny, man. I get
we're
corny.
creators.
I just get
We're
corny
creative.
thinking about
But
5 years from now, you and I, Jake, and we're getting that
yeah.
closer to retiring, and we got the retirement money down where we don't care so much, or so I should say, it's not that we don't care; it's that we don't have to rely on the sales to push us in and on, and so it just gets me. I just get so excited. I get so excited when
Yeah.
I edit our videos, and then I'm like, oh man, and then it's Sunday, and we're doing it right. I just have to say
I
that
don't
out loud.
know.
We're doing it
Yeah, I
right.
don't know. I don't know how
Stick around.
I don't know how people feel about making money on comics. Because
What
you
money?
know I have a steady job, and if I think about, I could just order whatever I want on Amazon. To make me happy. You want to order like some music, some CDs, some records. I have tons of
Right,
records. You was order. You want to get some comics? Well, we go over that all the time. I always
right.
buy all these comics. I got more comics than I can catch up with on my to read pile. So I'm okay there. All right. What about, cars? No, I don't care. I have a car that runs. I don't care about that. What about clothes? No, you're talking to the wrong guy. All I have is a bunch of band t-shirts and, jeans. That's I walk around. So, I'm thinking like what in life would make me happy. I want to spend time with my kids, and I want to draw comics, and I want to make stories I do like my job, working with middle school, shaping young minds. I would like to work more in an art, in an art high school maybe in the future, but it ain't gonna be this upcoming year. And I get satisfaction. So I don't know, people that are listening have have any kind of like relatable feelings, but it's not about the money. Even if you drop $500 right now, oh look, this is how much you made. So what? I make that in 2 days on my regular job, right? It's like so what? And it put me hours and hours and hours of work to grind this stuff out. This isn't the early days of comics where you're printing stuff up every month and it's going out on a truck to a newsstand.
Yeah,
This is like
but the truth of it is too. Back in the day, moment I got out of college, '92. Spring of '92, I graduate from college. Even up to this day today, I have never held only one job. Well, I can't say that
right.
because I have worked twice for companies, Trader Joe's being one of them. But I did do a lot of my own art and
Hmm.
exhibited and sold it during my time as a manager in training for Trader Joe's and then even a manager. But when I was out solely on my own as an artist, which is the thing I loved the most, was I was teaching steadily, maybe weekly, if not workshops. I was doing commission work. I was doing contract work. I was doing my own work. I have attention deficit disorder, which means I cannot concentrate on something for more than like 45 minutes. So if you can imagine the way my space is laid out, and I just reconfigured it again, and it's almost perfect. I have like five little tables around the that hold work in progress. And then I have a whole shelving
Wow,
system.
that's a
And
lot of
so
tables, man.
yeah, and so what I do is it might be an hour or two working on something, and I'm feeling a little like, okay, I feel like I got a lot done there, but what am I? Oh, I got to scan this stuff over here and start reading that, or oh, I got to start putting posts up for the Gardner Francis Fox Library, da 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 da. And at the
Yeah.
end of the day, the end of the week, the end of the month, I got all these. I call them vending machines, and they come in and they give me the money to keep moving on to the next. And if I can't maintain that, then I just go out and get some work somewhere. It used to be like
Yeah.
restaurants as a waiter or a bartender. Nowadays, if I had to, I would do what do you call it? Amazon. You know what I mean?
Marketing.
I would just go drive. I would go drive and deliver. I'm talking about when you need money. When you
Oh
need
yeah,
money, you know
like
what I mean?
like gig economy stuff.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So like comic books, I think, as a solid career, I'm not stating that you can't, and I know of people who are shit. I just did that. That are doing well enough that they're happy, you know, providing themselves with the way that they go about doing stuff. And that's just not for me, and it might not be for you. And the most important part of it is I do very little entertainment, if you will. Like I said, I don't blow whole entire days watching television. I might blow like
Right.
2 or 3 hours in
Video
time with my
games.
wife or something like that. But the majority of it is like I said, like when you say like I'm buying comic books for research. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's true. Like I get asked all the time, like, how can you spend that much time in your studio? Oh, you gotta be kidding me. I can spend all the time in my studio because it's just everything I'm doing is feeding me. You know what I mean? It's just that's what's important. And as long as you're doing something that's feeding you, then just stick
Yep.
with it.
That's what we're here doing, man. It's not about the money. Money's always good, but I'm a teacher. You have many jobs. It's not like I mean, we are able. I guess it's a privilege or whatever, but we're able to put aside
Yeah.
a couple hours every Sunday. Um, and literally draw on camera and talk about this project and upcoming scenes and the world that we're building and how it got this way. Love it. One other thing before we run out of time
Right.
is I talked about Violet and Daisy last week and Atlas, and we had a big conversation. Um, but the movie, so this isn't a movie I saw, but I came across. You look at these articles and upcoming movies, or maybe it was a YouTube. Yeah, I think it was a YouTube video about upcoming movies. I don't know who these guys are. They're like influencers or reporters, and they're like, they get some stock footage of like an old movie, and they tell you about the remake that's coming up. So it looks like they're in production now, a remake of Barbarella,
Oh, I've heard about that for
and
sure.
they've signed this actress named Sydney Sweeney, who I believe was in Madam Web. She was one of the three girls in the super squadron of Madam Web. Obviously, that was a terrible movie that no one's ever seen. I went out and saw it because I saw it by myself in the theater because I just was, I think my wife was away. And so she's been around Hollywood. She's very attractive. She's extremely well endowed. So I think they're going with, an actress that is going to be, real titillating. Let's say. But you know, when you look at the Barbarella, because they were showing clips of Barbarella over and over and over, and as they're explaining this, like, oh, the director will be blah blah blah, the production studio will be blah blah blah, and they're showing you these clips of Barbarella, which came out I think 68 or 69,
Yep. Yep.
and Barbarella looks so dated, you know, and you just wonder what they're going to do with this because
I disagree
it
with
was
you.
like
I disagree with you.
what Barbarella looks so dated. The special effects? Are you kidding me? The
I
the, the
I
sets?
I think you have to once again look at it through a lens of pure entertainment, and it's not to
I
stand
do.
up. But then why judge it for some box on a string being generated and dry ice or smoke being blown at it and
Well,
colored
my
lights and
question,
everything,
my
because it's supposed to be campy. Number one, it's supposed to be
yes,
campy, so it's not supposed to
definitely,
have a
yeah,
drilled down sci-fi level to it. Number two, it is supposed to be talking about all that was unpacked in the swinging 60s with sexual mores, and it's done in
yes,
a farcical or you know what I mean. So once again, if you're trying to go in with 2024 lenses to see something, this is where I don't have any hope that they're going to do it correctly um, as a remake, because the sexual mores that were opened up was women getting on the
right,
pill and men having their way and access towards them, and how a woman had to defend herself and kind of navigate society that way, and it carried on
yes. There was a
till
lot of
now.
coded.
And
Yes, there was a lot of coded sexual politics in Barbarella. I
yeah,
mean, Jane Fonda was just stunning. Like every moment she's on the screen, it's just
that's
complete
what saves that
captivation.
movie over and over and over again, is her and her sexuality, and how she
Yeah.
portrayed the ditzy blonde navigating through it, and saving the day at the end, if you will. But it was Pygar, the blind angel guy, um, who was, yeah. It's just, I guess the thing that I'm curious is, nowadays the sexual mores are completely wide open. Like, the biggest topic, in my opinion, right now about
I don't know
sexuality is
about
sex
that though.
workers.
I don't know about that. Some of
Oh,
these
come
'70s
on.
movies,
Come on.
some of it. Do you think? I mean, what are? I mean, all right. So there are. I mean, we have a. Here's what I want to say. We have a whole
Go.
porn industry, right? There's a whole porn
Where?
industry now. So
Where?
if where I don't know, it's Hollywood, it's
Keep going, Jake.
underground, it's
Just keep going.
overground.
Keep going. Keep
Well,
going,
there's all
Jake.
these. So if anybody's looking for just straight out hardcore, you can get that like flowing water, hot and cold running water, right? It comes in and and
Every
so
flavor.
the movie,
Every flavor.
right? So the movies, because back in '68, you had to try to slip that into movies, and then you had the problem of the censorship. You have the problem of raids, movie house raids, arresting the projectionists. Like all this stuff was going down. We spoke about Russ Meyer at length,
Yeah.
how he had to
Yeah.
tone everything way, way, way down. Everything was just suggested. Everything was in the mind. And Barbarella, which has been back in the comics. It started out as a French comic book, became a 1968, film starring Jane Fonda. I don't think it did too well initially, but has obviously become a cult classic.
Right.
It's going through a reboot. I can't imagine. It all depends who's in charge. Who the director is, who the producer is, who the scriptwriter is. They're going with these big name Hollywood actresses. But just as what I'm trying to say is like the movies are for the most part less are less overt and more tame. You don't see too many rape scenes nowadays. You don't see too many of these blurry lines things. They're gonna put Barbarella on the orgasmatron. You don't see movies like that as often because everything is in a PG lane or an R lane, and if they want to make the most money, they put it in like a PG-13 lane, and these big studios are very risk averse, right? And these movies cost like hundreds of millions to make, and they're trying to just make back. They want to try to make like maybe 40 million, and they
So going
invest
back to
100
my
million.
statement, there's a greater chance that they're going to fuck up the movie because they're going to not do these. They're not going to do these two things: campy and the years leading up
Sexual
to the
freedom,
sexual
sexual liberation, right?
mores. The way we are.
It was an ode. The whole thing was
Focused
an
in
ode.
we're focused in through fashion magazines and morning talk shows, and sexuality is not something that's pornographic based. Sexuality is the things that are used to be able to entice and tantalize and get you to buy movies, buy makeup, buy a car, buy a soda,
Clothes,
yeah,
fashion.
all that kind of stuff. So their challenge is, what is it really all about? Because, it's Barbarella is a completely 100% um, male, masculine driven sexuality. It's 100%. And we don't live in that world anymore. And in some cases, we're not allowed to. We're not allowed to just have a one fixed point male gaze sexuality a storyline. We have to introduce or bring
Well, this
in
brings up
these other
this. It's
other
an interesting
bases.
interesting debate. It brings to mind Barbie, right? The whole controversy of Barbie.
Right,
What was Barbie about? Who was it for? What is it
right,
trying to say?
right.
How come she was snubbed for an Oscar? Margot Robbie, right? Was she snubbed for an Oscar? I think she finally won an Oscar or a
Don't care.
nomination or something.
Don't care. Don't care.
But
Don't
yeah,
care.
but everyone's saying, oh, the sexism is alive and well because they gave the Oscar to Ken, right? Or
I don't know. I
um,
don't know. Don't care.
yeah. Well, that was a whole controversy that popped up. But where are
Ah!
we with women's liberation? I asked this because we have a strong female protagonist, obviously, and we also have a female damsel in distress character at the same time. And we, we're negotiating these same waters. Pop culture now is, um, you know, we're at a place where sexuality is common. It's advanced. I think a kid by the age of like 12 has probably snuck onto the internet and seen everything. Um, the cursing and the adult movies that they say that they watch, and the adult Netflix series that they say they watch. Like I have seventh graders. Their favorite thing, like 2 years ago, was Jeffrey Dahmer, right? Which was like a graphic serial murder thing, and I'm like, how late are you kids staying up, watching all this crap? So our whole society is permeated at this point. We might have the information overload problem, but but in terms of Barbarella, which could be, look, it's a big name that it's one of those things where the reboot is going to make a lot more money than the original one ever did.
Says
Unless
you.
it's a
Says
unless it's a
you.
mega flop.
Yeah, I mean,
No, I mean
so look,
they,
look, look, look. We're coming up on 45 minutes.
yeah,
We want to do a comics that influence. I'm getting anxious to get to that. But look,
yeah.
we're going to earmark this. Do you? I have my Google open. I will find the release date information and put it in my calendar. So
Uh-huh.
before that Sunday we get together, if there is a Barbarella movie release, we'll make sure to come circle back around and re-engage this. Yeah, I mean, the thing that I want people to know is we are doing something that is completely masculine in sexuality and driven, and proud of it. This started in 1999, by the way, with Jake and I. But I will put the majority of this on Jake in the mastery of how he wanted to tell a story and the way he wanted to tell that story. And of course, I was to ink the first issue, which is what I'm doing right now. I have just completed my 80% on page 23. I have 28 pages to bring up to this point, and then I could start putting in my oh so slowly becoming famous gray values, where I use everything I can, drawing and inking tool wise, and some to create some gray value for a black and white comic book. But you can get the first 12 pages, excuse me, Turbo Teaser #1. Link below, kurtbrugel.com is where I'm selling them. Right now, today, we have sold 5, so it's pretty great. And we are also using this as a part of our Indie Comic Exchange, which is where if you have a product that you would like to talk more about and help promote, we'd like to do that in exchange for our comic. And we get you to come on for the Indie Creator Exchange podcast. And the 3 of us get to shoot the shit, as they say, about comics and how to make them like that. So, but Jake, that's all I have. I'd love to get these people back to reading comics, making them if they choose. What do you got on the out? Yeah, we just lost you, so I think your microphone has. So I'm going to say thank you, everybody, and we will see you next Sunday. And I'll see you next Sunday, Jake.